Hi, everybody. Welcome. I wanted to make a quick video this morning because I've been really, how would I say, interested in the culture war that's happening in the United States, specifically in terms of popular culture. So I'm a Star Wars fan, and moreover, fantasy and sci-fi are my interests in terms of literature and stories. I really like Dune and the Foundation trilogy and Star Wars. I'm getting into Warhammer 40K and Lord of the Rings, of course. And if you've been paying any attention recently, you'll see that there's been a real co-opting, a kind of takeover of legacy IP like those I've mentioned, not all of them, but some of them, by contemporary media companies, namely Disney and Amazon. Uh, and there's kind of a lack of reverence of the initial IP. There's a lack of respect for the lore. And it really rubs the fan base, myself included, the wrong way. So, why? I think as I struggle to answer that question, um, because of course the answer is, well, it's not true to the original lore and so forth, but the real question is, why does that bother us so much, right? Those of the fan base that are really kind of peeved by what's happened with the Rings of Power and Amazon's creation and Disney Star Wars, just to name a couple of transgressions by these companies that have taken over these IPs. And I think the answer takes me down an interesting line of thought, and that is why stories are so important. So I wanted to make this quick video and talk to you guys about, even though I look like I just rolled out of bed, I've got my National Guard hairdo that's not tamed this morning, but I said, oh well. So the question that I am interested in answering is, why are stories so important? I could sit here and drone on, but what I did was asked ChatGPT a couple of questions and I got the answers, and I want to read those to you. So, my first question was, why do humans need stories? Humans have an innate need for stories because they help us understand and make sense of the world around us. Stories provide us with a way of communicating and sharing our experiences, beliefs, and values with each other. They can also be used to teach important lessons, preserve cultural traditions, and inspire us to imagine new possibilities. At a psychological level, stories appeal to our emotions, engage our imagination, and engage our imagination, excuse me. They help us connect with characters and situations on a personal level, allowing us to experience different perspectives and gain new insights into the human condition. This can lead to greater empathy, compassion, and understanding of ourselves and others. Moreover, stories can serve as a form of entertainment and escapism, providing us with a break from the stresses and challenges of everyday life. They can also inspire us to think creatively and solve problems in new ways. Overall, stories play a vital role in human communication and culture, and their importance can be seen throughout history and across cultures. So that was the answer to my first question: why do humans need stories? And I think it, again, makes the point of why the original IPs like Isaac Asimov's Dune and or excuse me, Frank Herbert's Dune and Isaac Asimov's books like Stranger in a Strange Land and his other great novels. I think he wrote I, Robot, among others. Uh, of course, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. They really are sources of the transmission of value. That is to say, a person's cultural values, um, the traditions that that person was born and raised with, their beliefs. And to reiterate, it has the ability to transmit empathy, compassion, and understanding for ourselves and others through the trials and tribulations of the characters involved. I think when a new company that's kind of social justice oriented, That is to say, an ideological company, a company not just telling stories to tell stories, but a company that is interested in propagating a certain political message, misses the point when they communicate these old stories because they don't prioritize the innate values of the author or original creators. They prioritize the media as kind of vehicle for contemporary messaging, and I think it it taints the IP. It taints the stories. And again, stories, we need stories. So I asked another question: why are stories important? I wanted to see if ChatGPT would give me a different take from the answer that it gave me about why we need stories. It says stories are important for a variety of reasons. Number one, communication. Stories provide a powerful tool for communication, allowing people to convey complex ideas and emotions in a way that is accessible and engaging. Two, connection. Stories can bring people together by helping us find common ground and shared experiences. They can also inspire empathy and understanding between people from different backgrounds and cultures, right? I mean, look at the Star Wars fandom. It's global, but now it's being tainted by identity politics, and it's all about your sex and color of your skin and sexual orientation, when it never was about that. Understanding, number three. Stories help us make sense of the world around us by providing context, meaning, and insight into human behavior and relationships. For learning, stories can be used to teach important lessons and values, allowing us to learn from the experiences of others and apply those lessons to our own lives, right? Who didn't growing up watching Dragon Ball Z want to be a Super Saiyan? Who didn't want to be a Jedi when they first saw Star Wars? Who didn't think that, the Fremen were the coolest when they read Dune? Who didn't want to fight the orcs and take down Sauron when they read Lord of the Rings, right? There's an aspirational quality to great stories that move us in the direction of moral uh, development. Imagination. Number five, stories inspire our imagination and creativity, allowing us to envision new possibilities and explore different perspectives. Number six, entertainment. Stories provide a form of entertainment and escapism, offering a break from the stresses and challenges of everyday life. Of course. It's funny that ChatGPT gave me the same phrasing, a break from the stresses and challenges of everyday life. So really good answers by the robot. I think we can agree that that's a thoughtful answer to those two questions about the profundity and importance of stories. It summarizes: overall, stories are an essential part of human connection and culture, and their importance can be seen throughout history and across cultures. Okay, so then I got kind of interested in thinking about stories in our tradition, in the Western tradition, which is a scientific, rational, Platonic, Aristotelian, kind of Renaissance, uh, Greek and Roman rationalist tradition, right? Reductionism, atomization, studying things as components of their parts, uh, um, exalting logic and reason, right? That's kind of the Western paradigm. Where the Eastern paradigm is very different. It's more about harmony and things as the confluence of disparate parts, the yin yang, the dance, the movement, the importance of nothingness, right, in terms of like meditation and sacred space and things like this. So I asked ChatGPT, what's the difference between the Western philosophical and Eastern philosophical tradition? Because I think these things are coded and manifest in the great stories. Every great story has, the force or magic or some sort of, ether or the warp or, um, a manifestation of the Eastern recognition of the known unknown, right? Where the Western tradition denies its existence, whether you call it dark matter or something nowadays, if you're, into into astrophysics, good for you. But in Western philosophical tradition, we don't really talk about it. Okay, so ChatGPT told me Western philosophical rationalism and Eastern philosophical tradition are two broad and distinct categories of philosophical thought, each with its own unique characteristics and approaches, of course. Western philosophical rationalism emphasizes the use of reason and logic to arrive at truths around the world. About the world, right? Western tradition is based on the belief that knowledge can be gained through deductive reasoning using first principles and axioms to arrive at a logical conclusion. The Western philosophical tradition also emphasizes individualism, objectivity, and a focus on the individual's rational mind as the primary source of knowledge. On the other hand, the Eastern philosophical tradition tends to place more emphasis on intuition, contemplation, and subjective experience. Eastern philosophers often seek to find unity and harmony in the world and view the self as interconnected with everything else. This tradition also emphasizes mindfulness, meditation, and the cultivation of inner peace and tranquility. Western rationalism emphasizes the use of reason and logic to arrive at truths, while Eastern philosophical traditions often seek to transcend logic and find deeper meaning through intuition and contemplation. Additionally, Western philosophy tends to be more focused on individualism and objectivity, while Eastern philosophy often emphasizes interconnectedness and the cultivation of inner peace and harmony. Okay, so my contention is that with the great lasting stories, the Bible, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, there's a effective melding of the value of the disparate philosophical traditions in terms of compelling narrative. So the hero's journey, the hero meets an old wizard, the wizard imparts the knowledge of intuition and contemplation and the known unknown to the hero, who faces the trials and tribulations of outrageous fortune and conquers evil through the development of a indomitable morality and striving towards a better future. It's a simple premise, but it's being lost now because in a day and age where in Western rationalism is taking over and losing its connection to its Eastern counterpart, you have identity politics and kind of very, very surface level understandings of IPs like Star Wars. It's about laser swords and X-Wings, when in reality, it's about, a child redeeming their seemingly unredeemable father, right? From the grips of malevolence. It's much deeper than, the Force and the Jedi. It's the endless battle between good and evil inside of all of us, right? So I think that's very interesting. Okay, so then I asked ChatGPT one last question because I came to the understanding that what must be going on in terms of these executives at Disney and these executives at Amazon Media that are just destroying these great IPs, and this is not opinion, right? There's objective data. These, all the media that was put out on YouTube for Amazon Rings of Power and Captain Marvel and Disney Star Wars gets ratioed, and each Star Wars sequel trilogy movie made less than the previous. The fans are rejecting this kind of woke, iterative retelling of these great IPs. And look, if you like these new stories, good for you, right? I'm not here to, rain on your parade. I'm just giving you my opinion. So my line of thought, I should say, moved me towards a supposition that those individuals that are in charge of making these, in my opinion, politically steeped and tainted media productions are closed-minded people. They're not interested in learning or being wowed or aghast is not the right word, but taken aback by really profound narrative journeys. They are closed-minded in that they seem to feel like they have a correct view of the world that is complete, and that they're here to educate others on, you know, how to bring about the utopia of social justice. And I think when a person thinks that way, has that sort of closed-minded worldview, the narratives that they produce, the stories that they produce are not interesting. Rey Skywalker is not interesting. You know, God bless Daisy Ridley. I think every time I've heard somebody be critical of Rey, it's couched in the recognition that it has nothing to do with Daisy Ridley as an actress. She's a great actress, good for her. The problem is she was given a character that's a Mary Sue to play. Luke Skywalker was a know-nothing, idealistic young boy on a desert planet who had to, you know, with all the talent in the world, but no real world experience, who then had to go and learn about his own shortcomings, train with Yoda on Dagobah, and face his own malevolence, his own propensity for malevolence, before he could ever hope to make the world better for his actions. Where Rey was just better than everybody at everything all the time from the jump. And it's no mystery that that doesn't resonate with people. We're all incomplete. We're all facing our own capability for screwing things up and you know, missing the mark. And so great narratives take us on the journey of understanding the protagonist's place in the world, you know, Paul Atreides, and watching that young, you know, unprepared protagonist be thrust into the scary world and be mentored along the way, and having to face their own fear, a huge theme in Dune, and then overcome and become this great hero. And of course, that's what our life is about, right? So, you know, if you're an ideologue, if you're a zealot, politically, religiously, what have you, there's no room for growth in the narrative sense, and that's why our stories are suffering. We're in a kind of a zealous political age where, you know, our country is bifurcating into two poles, and I think stories are what keep us engaged and transcend that polarity, and that's why I'm making this video. So I asked ChatGPT, what's the difference between an open-minded and a closed-minded person? And I'll reiterate, or I'll read some of the stuff that I think is compelling. Open-minded people consider new ideas and perspectives. They're receptive to the possibility that their existing beliefs and assumptions might be wrong, right? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, I could be wrong. I'm not making this video to tell you that, you know, think the way I do. If you disagree, please let me know. I'm interested in the debate, right? Open-minded people are curious and interested in learning, willing to engage with people and hold different opinions and experiences. Rather, engage with people who hold different opinions and experiences, right? Like, that's the joy of life, right? Newness, you know, variety. In contrast, a closed-minded person is someone who is resistant to new ideas and perspectives, who tends to rely on their existing beliefs and assumptions, even in the face of evidence to the contrary. It's easier to fool somebody than to convince them that they've been fooled. It's an old quote. They are less curious, again, closed-minded people, and interested in learning, and may be dismissive or hostile towards people who hold different opinions or beliefs, right? If you think differently than me, then you are my enemy. That is a terrible way to think. It's just limiting, you know, self-destructive. Okay, so key difference between open-minded and closed-minded people, according to ChatGPT. Number one, willingness to consider new ideas. Number two, flexibility. Open-minded people are adaptable and flexible, willing to change their beliefs and opinions in response to new evidence or experiences. Number three, curiosity. Open-minded people are curious and interested in learning about the world and other people's experiences. They seek out new information and perspectives and are willing to engage with people who hold different opinions and experiences, right? So an open-minded person is interested in good narrative story. I want to see how the hero conquers evil, right? Closed-minded people, in contrast, may be less curious and move set and more set in their ways and maybe less interested in learning from others. If you're closed-minded, you know, you're not interested in anybody else's journey because you've already got it all figured out. So when you look at, you know, uh, Velma, it's a self-insert from the writer. If you look at Ray, it's a self-insert from Kathleen Kennedy. These are, you know, these are megalomaniacs. These are egomaniacal people that are not open-minded. And this is what is assaulting great narrative, great stories in Western culture. And I'm here to talk about it. So overall, being open-minded is generally seen as a positive trait, as it allows people to learn and grow and to better understand the world and other people's experiences. In contrast, being closed-minded can limit people's ability to learn and grow and can lead to a narrow, inflexible worldview. So that's all I got. ChatGPT helping us understand why we need stories, why stories are important, the difference between a Western and Eastern philosophical take on the world, and then what's the difference between open and minded and closed minded people. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Love you very much. I will see you on the next video.